There are some names engraved in the pages of history that arouse both extreme hatred and utmost respect. In the 13th century, a hero emerged who changed the known map of the then world. His name was Genghis Khan. To some, he is a cursed person, while to others, he is a great statesman. An unresolved debate in history revolves around him. Did he really kill 40 million people? Was he a bloodthirsty conqueror? In today's video, we will try to find the answers to all these questions from the pages of history. Genghis Khan's real name was Temujin. His rise was not an exciting event. It was the culmination of endless conflicts between the nomadic tribes of Mongolia that had lasted for centuries. Temujin's childhood was surrounded by deprivation, betrayal, and extreme poverty. In a society where the only way to survive was through strength, Temujin used not only brute force, but also extraordinary diplomatic wisdom to bring the isolated tribes of Mongolia under a central banner. When he was given the title of Genghis Khan, or Universal Ruler, in 1490, he gave birth to not just an army, but a new nation. At the heart of this central power structure of the Mongol Empire was a rigid military structure where merit was given priority over blood relations. This meritocracy, or merit-based system, was the first key to Genghis Khan's success. But with this victory, a terrible statistic has been added to history: the death of about 40 million people. When modern historians analyze this number, they consider several important aspects. First of all, these 40 million deaths did not occur directly at the sword of Genghis Khan. Rather, it was a combined result of decades of war, famine, and epidemics, or plague, and Chinese historians greatly exaggerated the horrors of the Mongols. There were two reasons behind this. Firstly, the unstoppable power of the Mongols was shown as divine power, and secondly, the Mongols themselves wanted the story of their invincibility to spread throughout the world so that the enemies would surrender without fighting. However, if we go beyond this numerology and analyze the war strategy of the Mongols, we see that the mass killings were a well-planned political strategy. Genghis Khan's military policy was very clear. Those who surrendered without a fight would be given security, but there would be no mercy for those who resisted. The purpose of the devastation that was carried out in cities like Nishapur, Herat, or Samarkand was psychological warfare. By destroying one city, Genghis Khan would force the next 10 cities to accept settlement without a fight. This was an effective method through extreme cruelty, through which he would reduce the losses of the Mongol soldiers and expand the cunning kingdom. In other words, these massacres were not carried out of blind passion. Rather, it was a cold and calculated military decision. To judge Genghis Khan's personality solely by this cruelty would miss a large part of his historical significance. When he conquered a territory, he did not simply plunder. Rather, he would establish a well-organized administrative structure there. The Code of Laws, or Yasa, he created was a unique document. Just as the punishment for theft was severe in this law, it also had provisions regarding women's rights and religious freedom that were unthinkable in the context of the 13th century. Genghis Khan knew that it was not possible to rule a vast empire with the sword alone. He gave equal rights to people of all religions in his empire. At a time when the Crusades were going on in Europe, or religious divisions were at their peak in the Middle East, Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, and shamans lived peacefully side by side in the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan also introduced a revolutionary system in terms of administrative reform. He established a postal communication system called Yam, which is considered the prototype of the modern postal service. Since the introduction of this system, it has become much easier to exchange information from one end of the empire to the other. He made the Silk Road active and safe again. This stability of the Mongol rule is called by historians as Pax Mongolica, or Mongol peace. During this time, there was a massive exchange of knowledge, technology, and culture between Asia and Europe. China's gunpowder, compass, and printing industry reached the West through this Silk Road, which later played a role in laying the foundation for the Renaissance. Now the question arises, why is he portrayed only as a villain in history?
The answer lies in the way history is written. History is usually written by the victors, but in the case of the Mongols, history was written by the scholars of Persia and Arabia who were humiliated by the Mongols. In their writings, Genghis Khan only emerges as a destroyer. Again, in modern European history, the Mongols were also seen as barbarians or savages because they challenged the so-called superiority of Europe. But modern research shows that Genghis Khan did not only destroy, he gave birth to a new world order. He was the architect of the globalization that we are witnessing in our current era. It is difficult and historically wrong to judge a 13th century ruler by the moral standards of our time. That time was a time of ultimate survival. What Genghis Khan did was part of the brutal reality of the world at that time. But his achievement lies in the fact that he was able to build a strong administrative and legal framework from that chaotic time. Although he is blamed for almost 40 million deaths, it is undeniable that the stability he created later improved the quality of life of billions of people and built bridges between continents. Genghis Khan was an extraordinary figure. He was at the same time a symbol of destruction and an artist of creation. As he razed city after city, he also opened the doors to trade and knowledge. It would be one-sided to call him just a ruthless conqueror, but it would also be wrong to call him just a saintly statesman. He was an inevitable hero of his time who sowed the seeds of a new modern world in an old and decaying world. Genghis Khan is therefore an unresolved chapter in history that is easy to love or hate, but impossible to wait for.